All right, welcome to this week Dugout Dash in the Clubhouse with EMD Baseball. I am one of your hosts, Andy Kirikides, joined by my co-host, Keith Glasser. Keith, how we doing?
Great. How are you?
Good topic today. We are in the midst of it right now. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is, how to navigate it, some tips for the high school players to go through it, but we're going to talk about the quiet period. So first and foremost, quiet period. What do we got? Definition.
The quiet period. College coaches are not going to be able to leave campus at the Division
I college coaches.
I was getting there.
Sorry.
Like
reaction. I'm fired up tonight.
I know. At the Division I level, college coaches will not be able to leave campus to do any off-campus recruiting. They can, however, have camps on their campus and actively recruit student athletes at those camps. They can also entertain visits, official, unofficial, as long as it's after August 1st of your junior year. And they can still, call, text, tweet, Instagram, whatever else, social interweb stuff that coaches want to do. They'll be able to do during the quiet period. So you'll see now there's going to be a lot more camps that are going to be run on college campuses. You're probably going to get some emails and maybe some mailings, and you'll see it on Twitter and such about what camp dates are coming up. And, some of those camps might have other colleges at them. So it all depends. If you're getting those and you're interested in going to some of these camps, it is something worth asking. Are there going to be any other coaches there? Whatever it might be. So there's, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what the quiet period is currently. So you can go ahead and I'll kick it over to you, and you can go into how to navigate it a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the important things to understand is that the quiet period is on now while we're recording this in mid-October, and it will continue until March 1st of 2024. There are two additional shutdown periods that have been thrown onto the calendar where coaches can't do anything, can't make phone calls, can't do any of that. But essentially, Division I coaches can't leave campus to evaluate. So if you're a high school kid, you're a 25 or you're a 26, what does this mean for you? Well, it means if you are going to an exposure event, you need to wrap your head around the fact that there will be no Division I coaches there unless it is being held on that institution's campus. So make your decisions wisely. Right? Going to name whatever PBR or perfect game event that happens in February or January, just understand that there's not going to be Division I college coaches there. As far as identifying college camps, this is where, and we've talked about this a bunch, the honest assessment is super important, right? Going to a Division I camp just because you want to go to that camp and you really like that school, if you can't play at that level, you don't need to be going to that camp right now. You need to be focusing on getting better and really being able to look in the mirror and understand where do you fit in the grand scheme of things. Are you trending in the direction of a school? Okay, well, maybe it's a good idea to get on their radar so that they get a chance to see in the spring. Maybe you go to camp and you do something really good. But, if you're from New Jersey and you're 25 and you throw 78, I don't know how much value you're getting out of going to Rutgers' camp right now from a pure recruiting perspective. If you want to go to learn something from Coach Monaghan and Coach Owens and his staff, great, go. But don't think of it as a recruiting opportunity unless you're somebody who has the prerequisite talent to be evaluated and be considered at a school of that caliber. And that's something that you got to really look in the mirror. You got to have good conversations with your parents. You got to have good conversations with your coaches. Because you don't need to be going to stuff if you're not ready to go showcase yourself at it. The second part of that is what to do during the quiet period, like where you should spend your energy. And me and you are on the same page here, like weight room, skill work, development. Players got a chance during the quiet period. Recruiting is going to slow down. That if you're not getting recruited super heavy right now, or you're getting a little bit of interest, but nobody's really pulling the trigger, really what they're telling you is you probably need to get better. And a ton can happen from mid-October to April 1st when you start playing your high school games and coaches are going to be active. So take advantage of that time. Get in the weight room. Get with your pitching coach. Get with your hitting guy. get in there and actually get better at what you're doing, because these guys are going to judge you on what you do in April, not what you do in October.
Right. And I think the other thing too is you can probably take it a step further from a time standpoint, right? Like the quiet period ends on March 1st, right? Is when everything goes live. For Division I schools. Now, the thing that you have to keep in mind with that as well too is that they're playing during that time frame, that you are going to be ramping up for high school, depending on where you're from. Like obviously, if you're in the South, you're probably already into the season. If you're in the Mid-Atlantic Northeast, you're gearing up to start, or you're not really starting until April. Depending on where you are geographically, even in the Midwest and wherever, I don't know where everyone's listening, but it's a lot. It's going to be dependent upon, the climate in which you live. Like really outside of the big time schools, they're not going to be out pounding it in recruiting during your high school season, right? Like the vast majority of the Division 1s, 2s, and 3s are going to essentially stay very regionalized during the high school season. So you can even take it a little further. If you're in New York, where I live, take November, December, January, February, March, April, and May. That's 7 months. There's a lot of progress that can happen in 7 months where, all of a sudden they see you at the tail end of May and you look really good. And now they follow you through the summer. Like, if you start now doing all of that, you're going to be in a far better spot in May than if you try to wait until February or March and then decide you want to flip it on them. And again, that's not to say that you shouldn't be playing other sports and things like that. But, if you're doing your due diligence and taking your time and getting better from a weight room standpoint, a throwing program standpoint, getting with your hitting guy, whatever it is, it's going to pay dividends when guys are going to show up to see you play, during your high school season. But I think that's always an important kind of thing to throw out there and let people know too, that like they're playing during the same season. So I used to always tell people like, yeah, I'm going to try to get out and see pretty much all the high school local teams that I can get out and see during my season. But, if you're playing on a Wednesday and we're playing on a Wednesday, like I'm going to be in the third base box coaching my team. I'm not going to be at a high school game watching you play. So that's where it also becomes imperative to take video and have some things that you can send to coaches during your high school season so that when you start your summer, you have, kind of a highlight tape that you can throw out there. They see where you're at, and then they can track your progress as the summer goes along.
Spot on, Coach. Yeah, I mean, you're a Division I coach. You're usually on the road on Monday, and you're usually chasing arms. So for like a little bit of context for those who are listening, yeah, do you go see position guys when you can see position guys? Maybe your practice gets done early. They're playing a night game on a Tuesday. You had a 2:15 start to practice and you're able to hit the road and go check out a kid and go watch them take some at bats. Like you're always looking for opportunities, but to your point, it's limited. And if you're traveling or if you have a game, like you can't go watch guys play. So I think the moral of the story with the quiet period talk here is understand what it is, understand its limitations from an exposure perspective. Make sure that you're making good decisions about where you go, where you spend your money, and who you get in front of. Probably more importantly than anything is use this time to dedicate yourself to your body, getting physically strong, and developing over these next 5 or 6 months, because at the end of the day, coaches are going to really care more about what you do in a game than what you do at camp. So being ready for coming out like gangbusters in April or March when your high school season starts and going out there and dominating, that's going to be more important than what you do to camp in November. So, understand where you are, make sure you're prepping towards your high school season, and take advantage of the time when coaches aren't going to be out there that much. You can really put your head down and work.
Yeah. Last thing I'll add on this short is that this is also the perfect time to kind of plan out what you're going to want to be doing in the summer from a showcase camp and exposure standpoint there too. A lot of things are going to start to be scheduled. You'll start seeing them over the course of the next couple months, kind of leading up to the new year. So it's a great time, as especially camps and clinics and things start to wind down here towards the back end of the fall and into the winter. It's a great time to really sit down and try to plan out things and events that you might want to target for your exposure that's going to be able to mix into your summer schedule and things like that. So it's a great time right now to be able to do those types of things on top of, being able to, do the physical side of things, prepare yourself from a schedule standpoint as well, so that you don't feel rushed or really, confused or anything on the, when you get to that point in time. That way it's kind of planned out, you know what to do. And that, having that plan is going to create a lot less anxiety and stress when you get into the spring and the summer.
Nailed it. Well, that's it for this week's short. Thanks for listening. Go ahead and smash that YouTube subscribe and like button. Throttle it, if you will. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. And if you want to know more about what we do to help families and to educate families on the recruiting process, hit us up at emdbaseball.com. Until next week, thanks, everybody.